Hello everybody, welcome to my channel, Evan Writes. I know it's been a while, there's a lot that's been happening over the past few months, as I'm sure you all are aware of. Things that are happening globally, things that have happened in my personal life that have kept me rather busy, and I'm just now getting back into making videos. A good note is though that I decided to break out some of my old equipment, and now the videos should at least be better quality. I hope they're better quality, and hopefully that'll make it a little bit more enjoyable for you. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on every video, making things look nicer and making things work better. So that should help out a little bit. Anyway, to kick things off today and this month, I'm going to go ahead and start off with a brand new series, Writing in Video Games. And video games have had a stigma for a long time of not being very good for story. But there's also a lot of games out there that have amazing stories. A lot of RPGs have amazing stories unless they fall into really hard cliches. There are a lot of first-person shooters. There's a lot of video games in any genre that carries a good story. But what is the story killer in most video games? Aside from the rabid bunch of cliches or the lack of story whatsoever, the biggest issue in video games is that of the subplot. And that's what we will be talking about today. Now, why did I decide to start with side quests today, you might ask? Well, I think that side quests are a lot of the issues in games today. If the side quests aren't good, the game just drags on and the game itself isn't as good or as well received. You'll remember games for longer if the side quests are meaningful, or if there are no side quests at all, which means the main quest will follow these rules. Now, side quests come in a wide variety. There's the classic fetch quest where you have to go to one place and fetch an item. There's a delivery quest where you bring something to somebody else. There's escort quests where you go ahead and you pick somebody up and you help get them to another place. There's killing quests where you have to go kill X number of monsters or find X number of things. There's so many different types of quests in video games. But what makes quests good? The problem with side quests as they are today is that they are mostly used as a cop-out, a way to add game time for players without actually adding any meaningful content. You can have 10,000 fetch quests doing the exact same thing, and players will think that the game's good because it's longer, when it's not necessarily so. When they think back on the game later, it won't be as good of a game to them as it would have been if those quests were meaningful in some sort of way. Now, that's not to say that these kind of quests aren't without their benefits in certain places, but when a game uses these as most of their backload, it just adds time to a game without adding any meaningful content, and that's what we want to try to avoid when we write for video games. And aside from the fetch quests, there's also the quests that follow the whole anime storytelling trope, where every episode or every quest gives us the whole life story of a meaningless NPC that we don't care about. It's an issue with a lot of animes. We're going to introduce this character this episode. You're going to figure out his whole life story, which you'll never care about because you'll never see this character again. So why do those episodes and why do these quests cause issues? Mainly because these types of quests aren't giving us any information that'll help us progress the main story or other subplots of the story. So how do we make these quests? Gathering, finding, escorting, killing. How do we make all of these different kind of quests more meaningful without necessarily removing from the actual game mechanic that is being used in that spot? Well, the answer to this question is to use side quests to advance the plot, or use side quests as a subplot. Now, what is a subplot? A subplot is a story that is being told apart from the main story that affects the characters within the story. For example, in Tales of Symphonia, the main character Lloyd has a subplot with Colette that may or may not be a love story. So there are a lot of different side quests that can be missed relating to your connection, your emotional connection with the character Colette. So you have Lloyd and Colette progressing the subplot through different side quests. And these side quests feel more meaningful, and you actually feel bad when you miss one because you broke that subplot chain and you wanted to get that plot moving forward. as opposed to missing some random quest where you deliver an item to some random NPC to get some loot you won't care about in the next level. Why is it meaningful? Because it connects to the characters and the story that you care about, as opposed to the characters and story that won't matter later. So essentially, you make side quests matter by making them connected to subplots or the main plot that the main character is connected to. So you make memorable side quests by making quests that are attached to characters that the audience has a connection to. Main characters or characters within a player's party, or sometimes even the villain or other large-scale villains that may or may not have relations to the main characters. Finding out the stories relating to those characters and their past, adding three-dimensionality to those characters, makes those subquests memorable and makes the plot overall thicker and better as a result. I don't really care about some random NPC I'll never see again. I don't care about his life story and how his family is destitute and he has 3 kids who are being taken care of by rats because his leg is broken. No, I don't really care about that. What I would care about is if my party member has a mother who's sick in bed with a broken leg and 2 other destitute children who need fed, and the reason she's in your party is to help take care of them by gaining gold as a mercenary. Now, why does that matter to me? Because it adds depth to the character that before was just a kick-butt character who was there to help me. But now I know her reasons, and now every single thing that she says throughout the game, I can see through the lens of, oh, well, this is going on in her past. This doesn't work with other characters who you never see again because you don't get that chance to see their growth. You don't get the chance to see how these side quests actually matter to them. So instead of adding worthless NPCs, how about we add NPCs that are characters related to your main or sub character? So side quests become even better when they advance subplots that relate to the character, especially to current events like love, betrayal, the character's past, an antagonist's past, etc. Pretty much anything that adds depth to one of those characters, either the main antagonists or antagonists are prevalent through most of the game or novel. You can also apply this to novel writing, or something that also applies to a character's party or the main characters on the protagonist side with those same things. Were they betrayed in the past? Is that why they want to kill a specific boss in the game? Were they lovers with somebody who's actually an antagonist now, and is that going to add tension to the story because, well, do we want to hurt them or prevent hurt? Do we want to try to turn that person to our side? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that goes along with adding these backstories to important characters, using subplots and side quests to do that. As an example, we'll take Mega Man ZX. Since a collection for Mega Man ZX just came out along with Mega Man Zero, you get to play through those games and experience Zero's story, and then when you play Mega Man ZX, there is a side quest where you can fight Omega Zero from the original Zero series. And there's almost no talking in this quest at all, but it's very rewarding because it deals with a character that we've had an attachment to, a main antagonist from one of the games, or one of the previous games rather. So when we go there, we feel awesome because we got to take part in a secret quest to fight a character from a previous game that used to be a main boss. And that added a lot of joy and feelings of accomplishment for that game because you got to go and beat this character. You were asking questions like, how do these new characters compare to the old? Well, you get a chance to try when you fight that character in the new game. We'll go ahead and use another game as an example. For example, Tales of Grace's F. When I was playing through this game for the first time, I felt that the story was really bland, overly cliche. You know, there isn't a whole lot going on. There was some nice political stuff and things going on with your main character and your brother who got separated from you at birth, and the tension between you two as growing up in different families and different cultures. And there's a lot of cool stuff there, but for the overall plot, it was just a typical feeling of a Dark Lord plot going and you have to stop this character. Now, that wasn't that great of a game through the main plot, but something happened when I finished the game and you get an extra chapter, or pretty much a chapter-long side quest, an epilogue to that game, that completely changed this game in my eyes. Once you beat the game, something happens, and you get to see the story through the villain's eyes for a while. You start second-guessing as a player whether you were necessarily right in the main storyline before you beat the game or not. You start to see things that, you know, maybe the antagonist was right and just the way they were going about it was wrong. And that added such a three-dimensionality to the story for me, that it really stood out, really made the game one of my favorites after that. Without that epilogue, without that extra chapter, adding extra mechanics and adding that side quest storyline based on the antagonist that before was just a Dark Lord trope with almost zero personality whatsoever, you got this whole world opened up to you where it's like everything wasn't as black and white as you thought it was. And it was great. It was awesome. And that's what side quests need to do. They need to add a different perspective to different characters so that that character is more three-dimensional, or that subplot or that plot point gets extra volume, extra depth, extra, oh, this isn't just a typical trope. We're turning something on its head. Yeah, the villain might have been right after all, and maybe we have to turn and do it. We go ahead and we take Golden Sun and Golden Sun The Lost Age, which are Game Boy games back in the day. The main point of Golden Sun was you go through and you have to stop these people from lighting the 4 elemental towers, because if you do, alchemy will return and the world will be destroyed. And you see evidence of that as you play through the games. After one tower is lit and you couldn't stop it, a lot of environmental effects happen that cause you to think that the world is going to be destroyed. It turns out later that that turned out to be because the elements were out of balance because you only lit one element, but that's the main story of the first game, where you're trying to stop that from happening. In the second game, you take on the role of one of the antagonists from the first game who is lighting the towers, and it is now your goal to light the towers. And as you go through, you find out that lighting the towers is actually going to save the world, but you need to do it before the nature being out of balance destroys it first. And later on, the characters from the first game join you, and it's really cool because you get that extra depth. You get to see things from the antagonist's point of view. You can apply this to your writing in books as well. When antagonists are more three-dimensional, or the subplots are more three-dimensional, or the side quests matter to the characters, it adds to the depth of the overall story. So you can prevent the issues of main side quests by making them focus on characters that matter and adding information about those characters or experiences relating to those characters that we love. Now, there's an issue here where when does this fail? When does this tactic of making side quests or subplots in a story relate to main characters or characters that matter in a story fail? Well, it fails when those characters just don't feel good, when you don't like those characters. I recently played through Dragon Quest XI, and the main plot was rather boring to me, and none of the characters really stood out in any way that made me like them like other games did. I played through, I beat it, but it just wasn't one of my favorites. I didn't enjoy the game much because none of the characters really mattered to me. I didn't like them very much. There was none of them that really made me care about them. So when we did subplots or side quests relating to those characters, it just felt like a chore to me because nothing was really being added to their personality to make them important. It was just more of the same, more of that same trope, and I wasn't getting any extra depth. So when you do that, you need to make sure that your characters stand strong as they are, and then the information that we learn about them doesn't just advance that character, but sometimes adds a dark side to that character or something that happened to them. In summary, when you're writing side quests or in just regular novels, a subplot, you want to make sure that they advance characters that you care about, antagonists and protagonists. And you want to make sure you shed those characters in a new light. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found a way to help make subplots or subquests or side quests meaningful for your book, your video game story, anything really that deals with writing. This can be applied all across the board. You just want to make sure that you're shedding light on important characters. I don't want you to focus too much on guard number one's whole life story so you can get something for his kid so he'll let you into the castle to kidnap the princess. I don't need his whole life story. I'd rather you find out something about the princess that makes kidnapping her more terrifying for you. Oh, she kills anybody she takes to bed with her and you're going to go kidnap her? Are you going to be safe? I don't know. That's more interesting. But if we stuck with the guard before, it doesn't really matter, especially if we never see that guard again. If that guard later becomes important, maybe. But if not, that information is unnecessary. Let's focus on the important information. Anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this. Go ahead and follow me on Instagram and Twitter at YT_Evan_writes. And go ahead and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. But anyway, I will see you guys in the next video, and I hope to see you more in further videos. That being said, have a great day, everybody, and I will see you on the other side.